Good morning, all of you. My name is Bhatia, and today this is the class of BHIC 133, and we are going to cover Unit 9 and 10 in this class. As you know, in Unit 9, there is a Iqta and Jagir. Earlier, we have explained a lot of things near about Iqta system. What is Iqta and what is Jagir? The difference between these type of taxes were we will give in forward time. Okay, next, what is Iqta? Uh, have you known about the Delhi Sultanate period? In Delhi Sultanate period in 13th and 14th centuries, okay, it involved there was very kinds of control in terms of territories, just like those brought under direct administration and those which paid tribute and remained semi-autonomous. The expansion of Delhi Sultanate and the difficulties involved in administrating areas that were far away from the center shaped different kinds of control. These were the type of control which the Sultanate rulers have in their hand. Okay, like Iqta system and the Jagir system. First of all, before Iqta and Jagir, we should know about what is Jama and what is Hasil. These two types of taxes they were estimated at that time means two words just like Jama. What is Jama? Jama means estimated revenue, which they estimate the revenue which they will collect. And what about Hasil? Hasil is the actual revenue collected by the Delhi Sultanate period, the rulers of that particular time. Jama and Hasil. Now, what is Iqta system? The initial Turkish conquest in early 13th century displaced many local chiefs. In order to consolidate, the Turkish rulers made revenue assignments, means ikta, in lieu of cash to their nobles, umrah, nobles connected to umrah. The assignees known as Mukti and Wali, we have discussed earlier also, and the assignees collected revenue from from these areas, defrayed their own expenses, paid the troops maintained by them, and sent the surplus. Surplus means fawazil to the center. What is Iqta? Iqta is an Arabic word, and the institution had been in force in the early Islamic world as a form of reward for the services to the state. It is used in the caliphate administration as a way of financing, operating, and paying civil and military officers. Okay, these were the Iqta. The Iqtas were a type of pay payment to civil and military officers. These two officers were the very high officers at that time. That's why in cash and kind they take Iqtas. The grant of Iqtas did not imply a right to the land, nor was it hereditary, though the holders of Iqta tended to acquire hereditary rights in Firoj Tughlaq's reign. These revenue assignments were transferable, the Iqta holder being transferred from one region to another every 3 or 4 years. Therefore, Iqta should not be equated with the fief of medieval feudal Europe, which were hereditary and non transferable. Next is the assignment could be large. Assignment could be large, a whole province or a part. Assignments given to nobles carried administration, military, and revenue collecting responsibilities. That's why provincial administration were headed by Mukti or Wali. They had to maintain an army composed of horsemen, foot soldiers, and the classical definition of Iqta system has been given by Nizam ul Mulk Tusi, a Seljuk statesman of the century. They should know that their right over the subjects is only to take the rightful amount of money or perquisite in a peaceful manner. The life property means the passage from Nizamul Mulk to Siyasatnama on the rights of Mukti, English translation from ABM Habibullah. These were given by the Nizamul Mulk Tusi. According to Tusi's definition, Iqta was a revenue assignment that the Mukti held at the pressure of Sultan. The Mukti was entitled to collect in proper manner the land tax and the other taxes due to Sultan. He had no further claim on the person, on a woman, on a children, on the land, or other possessions of the cultivators. And who was Mukti? The Mukti had certain obligations to the Sultan. The chief being the maintenance of troops and furnishing them at call to Sultan. These were the Iqta was a transferable charge, and the transfers of Iqta were frequent, means 2 or 3 years later they got transfers in any other areas, any other places. How Iqta system came into the operation at that time. In Sultanate period, neither the revenue assignment, neither the revenue income of these assignments was known, nor the size of contingent of assignee was fixed. Means the real invention, the intervention in the Iqta administration came under Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji was the ruler in Delhi Sultanate period. Alauddin Khilji. The Central Finance Department means Diwan-e-Wazarat. Diwan-e-Wazarat perhaps prepared some sort of an estimated revenue income from Iqta. The audit was stringent, punishment, severe transfers, frequent enhancements were often made in estimated revenue income of the Iqta on various pretexts. Next is Ghayasuddin Tughlaq. Ghayasuddin Tughlaq introduced some moderation in Iqta system. The enhancement in the estimated revenue income by the Central Finance Ministry was not to be more than 1 upon 10 or 1 upon 11 annually. The Muktis were allowed to keep 1/10 to 1/20th in excess of their sanctioned salaries. Next, the attempt at central invention reached its climax during the time of Muhammad Tughlaq. In several cases, a wali and an amir was appointed to the same territory. They were the person who collect revenue and after deducting his pay to send the rest to the treasury. That was the main problem for the people of the Delhi Sultanate time. There was no attempt to restore central control by the successor of Firoj. Under the Lodhis, the administration changes and revenue assignments were combined together. These were no more called Iqta but were simply called Sarkars and Parganas. Next, Iqta and the dispersal of resources among the ruling class. How Iqta and how the dispersal of resources among the ruling classes. They distributed that Iqtas among the ruling classes and the resources also. Khalsa. What was the Khalsa? Khalsa was the term for the land whose revenue was exclusively meant for the Sultan himself. Only Sultan was using the revenue that was known as the Khalsa. While the revenue from the land called Iqta, the revenue which came from the land, this was called Iqta and was assigned by the state to the nobles. These revenue assignments were generally non-hereditary or non-transferable. In fact, it was through the institution of Iqta that the Sultan was able to control the nobles. The Mukti collected land revenue from the peasants of his territory and defrayed therefrom his own salary as well as that of his soldiers. Alauddin Khilji also took other measures for controlling his nobility. How he controlled? Regular reports from the Baraits kept him posted with the actions of the nobles. Then what the nobles were doing at that time, they Alauddin Khilji appointed Barits. Barits means intelligence officers. Okay, time to time by time, they tell Alauddin Khilji each and every activity related to the nobles. That's why a check was kept on their socializing. Marriages between them could not take place without the permission of Sultan. These measures have to seen against the background of recruitment incidents of rebellions in which the muftis utilized and appropriated the resources of their areas to rebel or to make a bid for the throne. These explains the principle of transfer also. And what about Muhammad Tughlaq? Under Muhammad Tughlaq, the nobles were given Iqta in lieu of cash salary, but their troops were paid in cash by the treasury in contrast to the earlier period. And in Iqta system, exactly Iqta system at the time of Alauddin Khilji, the nobles were given the piece of lands, and on behalf of these lands, they take Iqtas, means they take revenue from that particular area. These new fiscal arrangements and the greater control over assignments possibly contributed to the conflict between Sultan and the nobles, since they were deprived of gains of the Iqta management. Next is, what is Jagir system? What is Jagir? Have you heard about the Jagir system? It's like Iqta, as we have seen that the revenue assignment made by the Delhi Sultans were termed Iqta and its holder Iqtadar. The system was developed to appropriate the surplus from the peasantry and then distribute it among the nobles. Means the surplus from the peasants that will be distributed to among the nobles. This also included the administration of area under by the assignee. The Mughal emperors too did the same. Did the same. These assignments were given in lieu of cash salaries. The areas assigned were generally called Jagir and its holder called Jagirdar. Means Iqtas and Jagirs are connected. But the income revenue from the land, the area was given to Jagirdars. This system developed over a period of time and underwent many changes before stabilizing. However, the basic framework was developed during Akbar's reign. Let us study and Jagir system. And what about in early phase and in later phase? And now we are talking about in early phase. Means early phase means Delhi Sultanate and later phase means Mughal time period. In early phase, Babur, after his conquest, restored to the former Afghan chieftains or conferred upon them assignment of approximately more than one third of conquered territories. The holders of such assignments were known as wajadars. A fixed sum was assigned as wajah out of the total revenue of area. The rest of revenue of territories was deemed to be a part of Khalsa. Khalsa connected to the particular ruler. Next is organization of Jagir system. How they organize Jagir system? Because during Akbar's period, all territory were broadly divided into two, Khalsa and Jagir. The revenue from the first went to imperial treasury directly, and that from the Jagir was assigned to Jagirdars in lieu of their salary in cash, means naqd, according to their rank. Means if the rank is high and the salary which was given to them was high. Some some mansabdars got cash salary and hence they are called Nakdi. A few were given both Jagir and cash, both. The bulk of the territory was assigned to mansabdars according to their rank. The estimated revenue was called Jama and the exact revenue was called Hasil. Means Jamadani as it was calculated in dam. Means a small copper coin 1/14th of silver rupiah on the average. The Jama included land revenue, inland transit duties, port customs, other taxes, which were known as Sair Jihad. Another term used by the revenue officials was hasil, that the amount of revenue actually collected. Hasil. You must understand these two terms. Jama and hasil. Jama means the revenue calculated, which it will be taken, and the hasil means the revenue that were actually collected. This was applied to those areas whose revenue were yet to be assigned to mansabdars. In the year 1596 and 97 of Akbar reign, the Jama of Khalsa in the provinces of Delhi, Awadh, Allahabad amounted to about a fourth of their total revenue, means one fourth part of the total revenue. Under Jahangir, almost 9 upon 10 of territory was assigned in Jagir. Only 1 upon 10 was available for the Khalsa, and the ratio even fell below 5% of that of the whole empire. The ratio of Jagir and Khalsa kept fluctuating. Under Shah Jahan, it rose to 1/11th, and by 20th year, it was nearly 1/7th. Means the ups and downs were going in the revenue system. Another important feature of Jagir system was shifting of Jagir holders from one Jagir to another from for administrative purposes. Means just like Iqtas also. Various type of Jagirs, we are going to study about various types of Jagirs. The four types of revenue assignments at that time means number one, Jagirs, which were given in lieu of pay, were known as Jagir Tankha. Jagir that to a person on certain conditions were called Masurat Jagirs. And the Jagirs which involved no obligation of service were independent of rank were called Jagirs. And last is Jagirs which were assigned to Jamidars in their homelands were called Watan Jagir. Under Jagir's period, some Muslim nobles were given Jagirs. Under Jahangir's period, some Muslims nobles means the mantris of that particular Jahangir were given Jagirs resembling to Watan Jagir called Al Tamgha. These type of cash and kinds which were given to the particular Jagirdars, particular Mansabdars at the time of Mughal period means at the time of sometimes Watan Jagir was converted into Khalsa for a certain period as Aurangzeb did in case of Jodhpur in 1679. How they managed with their Jagirs means the management of Jagir. The imperial officials kept watch on Jagirdars. The Diwan of Suba was supposed to prevent the oppression on the peasants by the Jagirdars. From the 20th year of Akbar, Amin was posted in each province to see that the Jagirdars were following imperial regulations regarding collection of revenue or not. The Fauzdar often helped the Jagirdar to collect revenue whenever difficulties arose. Yes, these type of Jagirs and things we have discussed about Jagirs and things. A very little amount of work which was given about the Jagir system and the Iqta system about these things. Very little amount. Just like how they organized their Jagir system in Delhi Sultanate period and in the Mughal period, how they managed these things. Means the Jama and Hasil, which were the two cash and kind, which were connected with the Delhi Sultanate also and with Mughal time period also. Just like Khalsa. Khalsa, what is the Khalsa? Khalsa were the land and the tax, the revenue collected from the Khalsa land, which was given direct to rulers, emperor's treasury, means direct to Rajkosh of the ruler. of that particular. Nearly 1/7 means 1/10 part, 1/11 part, 1/7 part, 9/10. These type of ratio which was given, ratio even fell 5% of that of the whole empire. The ratio of Jagir and Khalsa kept fluctuating at that time. And what about Shah Jahan region? Under the time of Shah Jahan, it rose to 1/11th, and by the 20th year, it was nearly 1/7. Yes. Another important feature of Jagir system was shifting of Jagir holders from one Jagir to another Jagir for administrative reasons. This system of transfer checked the Jagirdars from developing local roots, the how they developed with local roots. At the same time, its disadvantage. What was the advantage and the disadvantage of Jagir system? Yes, now I'm going to tell you about its disadvantage was that it discouraged the Jagirdars from taking long-term measures for the development of their areas. They were merely interested in extracting as much revenue as possible in a short time. And what about the advantage of Jagir system? Means they collect revenue. The Jagirdars collect revenue as much as they can. If they have decided to pay to the rulers near about 1/10, then after that they collect 1/20th with the peasants, with the other people, just like subjects of the particular empire. And the rest, 10th part, was given to emperor, and the rest 10th part was taken by the Jagirdar himself. That will be very profitable. And at the time of Akbar, they could not do these type of activities at that time. And in the early phase, in Delhi Sultanate period, a fixed sum was assigned as wajah out of the total revenue of area, means a fixed. The rest of revenue of the territories was deemed to be a part of Khalsa. That's why the Jamidars continue. The Jamidars continue in their respective areas. But in other conquered areas, Babur ruled through Hakims. Hakims means governors. As Hakims, we can know about the doctors, we can connect it. But Hakims means governors. The same pattern perhaps continue under Humayun also. Yes, these type of things they were doing at that time. The areas assigned were generally called Jagirs, and the holders of the particular Jagirs were known as Jagirdars. Sometimes termed like Iqta, Iqtadar was also used, but very sparingly. It must be made clear that it was not the land that was assigned, but the income, but the revenue from the land, that area was given to the Jagirdars. These type of systems developed over a period of time and underwent many changes before stabilizing. However, the basic framework was developed during Akbar's reign. And we have studied about Iqta system and we have studied about Jagirdari system. Jagirs and the Iqtas both were a kind of revenue that were collected by the officers appointed by the emperor. And Jagirs, that were also a type of revenue given by the peasants and taken by the officers which were appointed by the emperor. And at the time of Iltutmish, and Iltutmish is reported to have assigned in lieu of salaries, just like small Iqtas, means small part of lands, in the Doab area to soldiers of the Sultan's army, means Hashm Kalb. Balban, what about Balban? Balban made a half-hearted attempt at their resumption without success. It was Alauddin Khalji who established firmly the practice of payment of salaries in cash to the soldiers. A practice that was again altered by Firoz Shah Tughlaq, FST, who began to assign villages to soldiers in lieu of their salaries. And these assignments were called Waja and the holders called Wajada. These assignments tended to be not only the permanent but it was hereditary. So many important things we have studied about. What is Fawazil? The surplus that is known as Fawazil. Just like the assignees, collected revenue. The assignees means the person who collect revenue, and the person means that was appointed by the help of the emperors. The assignees who collected revenue from these areas, whose areas that defrayed their own expenses, means they keep their own expenses and they paid the troops maintained by them and sent the surplus to the center. What is surplus? Surplus means the excess thing they were producing on behalf of the agriculture or like this. Means the surplus, the rest things they have given to the center. The Iqta is an Arabic word and the institution had been in force in early Islamic world as a form of reward for services to the state. It was used in the caliphate administration as a way of financing operations and paying civil and military officers. The grant of Iqta did not imply a right to the land, nor was it hereditary, though the holders of Iqta tended to acquire hereditary rights to in Firoz Shah Turi. These revenue assignments were transferable. These revenue assignments were transferable. They were not at that time particular. The Iqta holder being transferred from one region to another every 3 or 4 years. Therefore, Iqta should not be equated with the fief of medieval feudal Europe. Was headed by the Mukti or Wali. He had to maintain an army composed of horsemen and the foot soldiers also. The classical definition was given. Yes, I repeated. I'm going to repeat this definition again. What is Iqta according to Nizamul Mulk? Means muktis should know that their right over the subjects is only to take a rightful amount of money or perquisite in a peaceful manner. The life, the property, and the family of the subject should be immune from any harm. The muktis have no right over them. If the subject desires to make a direct appeal to Sultan, the mukti should not prevent him. Every mukti who violates these laws should be dismissed and punished. The muktis and walis are so many superintendents over them as the king is superintendent over the mukti. After 3 or 4 years, the amils and the muktis should be transferred so that they may not be so too strong. If they can be strong, then the power of emperor, the emperor should he feel very much defray from the muktis at that time, because if someone's power is getting added at that time, then the power of rulers thought that it should be not good for my empire. That's why these type of things, and after these things, the emperor was not ready to give them so much power at that time. This is the unit 9, and we have studied a lot of things related to unit 9. Now I'm going to start unit 10. What is land revenue? Unit 10 is land revenue. Means we are going to study about land revenue and the Khalsa system and the land revenue in Delhi Sultans, agrarian measures of Alauddin Khilji, agrarian measures of Muhammad Tughlaq, and the Alauddin Khilji's market control policy that is very, very most important for you all. Alauddin Khilji's market control policy. And what about Mughals' land revenue system? What was the method they were adopting at that time in collecting the land revenue? Then what were the relief measures which was taken by the Mughals and Delhi Sultans? And what about the currency system of Delhi Sultans? What was the currency system of Mughals? And what type of coins they introduced at that time? And what was the minting system at that time? These points we will cover in this unit 10. We will cover in this unit 10. Yes. Now I'm going to tell you about the introduction of Unit 10 means what type of things they were doing at that time. The conquest of North India, because Muhammad Gauri, he came to India from the north. Okay, the conquest of North India by the Ghurids and the establishment of Delhi Sultanate not only changed the existing political structure but also brought economic changes also. The conquerors came with fairly well defined concepts and practices regarding tax collection, distribution, system of coins, these type of things they were doing at that time. But the existing system could not be changed altogether. Yes, in the beginning, these were superimposed on the older system. Means the old system was denied at that time, the new system controlled over the particular subjects of that time. Next, what is Khalsa? Khalsa, the territory whose revenue were directly collected from the Sultan's own treasury. That was designated Khalsa. And what was the size of Khalsa land? Its size seems to have expanded quite considerably under Alauddin Khilji. But the Khalsa did not appear to consist of shifting territories scattered throughout the country. In all probability, Delhi, along with its surrounding district, just like including parts of Doab remained in Khalsa. Means Doab is an area that is very much fertile for the rulers and that is very much economically beneficial for the rulers. That's why the Khalsa land is connected to that particular Doab. In Iltutmish time, Tabar means Bhatinda too was in Khalsa. Under Alauddin Khilji, the Khalsa covered whole of the middle Doab and Rohilkhand also. But during the days of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the Khalsa perhaps had reduced considerably in size. Yes, now we are going to connect these Khalsa land from the Sharifa. Under the Mughal Khalsa or Khalsa-e-Sharifa was not fixed, instead kept on fluctuating. Under Akbar, it was approximately 25% of total Jama. Under Jahangir, it shrank to less than 5% of total Jama. Under Shah Jahan, it amounted 1.7 of Jama, while under Aurangzeb, it became 1 upon 5th of the total Jama. However, still, 4 upon 5, 4/5 revenue of empire was alienated in the form of Jagirs at that time. In the Mughal period, we have discussed, and in Delhi Sultanate period also, we have discussed. What was the land revenue and how they extract land revenue in Delhi Sultanate period? The Islamic land tax, which the new rules of India were familiar, was kharaz. Have you heard about khams and kharaz? These were the taxes which were taken by the Delhi Sultanate period. The kharaz was essentially a share in the produce of land, not a rent on the land. During the 13th century, the kharaz took by a large the form of tribute. This tribute was paid in lump sum either by the potentates surviving from the previous regime with whom the Sultanate ruling class entered into some arrangement. The sources of Delhi Sultanate do not suggest that before the reign of Alauddin Khilji, any serious attempt was made to systemize the attempt and realization of kharaz. What was the agrarian measures of Alauddin Khilji? Agrarian, how he was doing and what he was doing for the agriculture policy. As you know, the demand was thus fixed in kind, but realization appears to be mostly in cash. Jowdin Burney informs us that the revenue collectors were ordered to demand the revenue with such rigorous that the peasant should be forced to sell their produce immediately at the side of fields. At another place, Jauddin Burmi says that Alauddin Khilji brought the Doab into Khalsa, and the tax from there was spent on paying the cash salaries to the soldiers. Yet there is a rather contradictory statement by the same author that the Sultan ordered the peasant should pay tax in kind or not in cash. According to Irfan Habib, it seems to have reference to only some parts of Khalsa in the Doha. From there, the Sultan wanted to obtain supplies for his granaries. Otherwise, the realization was normally in cash. The system of taxation introduced by Alauddin Khalji seems to have lasted for long through Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, modified it some extent and exempted the courts of Mukad and the Mukaddams from paying tax on their cultivation and cattle. But he did not permit them to impose any census on the peasants. Agrarian measures of Muhammad Tughlaq at that time. Muhammad Tughlaq first extended Alauddin Khalji's system of land revenue collection based on the measurement of Gujarat, Malwa, Deccan, South India, and Bengal. At a later stage, the scale of agrarian taxation was enhanced considerably. Barney's statement that the increase amounted to 20 or 10 times is undoubtedly a rhetoric statement that the increase amounted to 20 or 10 times is undoubtedly a rhetoric, but it certainly gives the impression of an enormous increase. Ziauddin Barni suggests that the additional new imposed means were levied. According to Yahya, cattle were branded and the cottage count to avoid any cancelments. But more important than these measures was the fact that for assessment of kharaj, wafa farmani, nirk farmani was used at that time. Faced with so many problems, faced with so many problems, Muhammad Tughlaq became the first sultan. Muhammad Tughlaq became the first sultan to attempt to formulate an agricultural policy for promoting agriculture. He introduced the practice of giving agriculture loan named Sondhar for increasing the area under the plug for digging wells for irrigation. 7 lakh tanks were given till 1346-47, but perhaps hardly any amount reached the peasantry. Not very beneficial for the peasants. Ziauddin Barni, however, says that all these measures were almost a complete failure. Firuz Shah Tughlaq abandoned these projects, abolished agrarian cases, and forbade levying of ghari and charai, means house tax and charai taxes also. But he is reported to have imposed a separate tax, means jizya. Jizya distinct from kharas, means the land tax on the peasants. He also introduced an irrigation tax also, Hak-e-Sharp in Haryana, where he dug up canals. There is little information forthcoming for the intervening period, but in all probability, the land tax continued to be collected in cash by whomsoever be the rulers till the time of Ibrahim Lodi. Next, Alauddin Khalji's market control policy. That is very important for all of you. Alauddin Khilji's market control policy. As I was in BA program, that at that time I remember that this question is very important, and now this time this question is also very important at that time. This time also. Alauddin Khilji's measures did not remain confined to rural economy, but extended to urban control market as well. He is credited for issuing a set of seven regulations, which came to be known as market control measures. Jiaudin Barni, who is our main source on this aspect, is the only authority who gives these regulations in detail. The Sultan fixed the prices of all commodities from grain to cloth, slaves, cattle, etc. These prices were really to be enforced since the Sultan carefully made all arrangements for making and measure a success. A controller of market means Shehnai Mandi, Barits, intelligence officers, Munia, secret spies were appointed at that time. The grain merchants were placed under Shehnai Mandi, and Suratsis were taken from them. The Sultan himself was to receive daily reports separately from these resources. Regretting means iktikar, regretting, was prohibited. While ensuring strict control in the market, the Sultan did not overlook more essential requirement, namely the regular supply of grain and other things at lower price. Now you all can see the prices that were given by the Alauddin Khilji, and the prices that were given by the Muhammad Tughlaq, and the prices that were given by the Firuz Shah Tughlaq. Very difference between these three rulers. Just like wheat, barley, paddy, pulses, lentils, sugar, sugar white, sugar soft means sheep, or ghee, butter. These prices, as we can say example of pulses, and we can say, if we can take example of wheat, 7.5 rupees per kilo at the time of Alauddin Khilji. At the time of Muhammad Tughlaq, the price rose near about 12 rupees per kg. And at the time of Firuz Shah Tughlaq, the rupees was 8 rupees per kg. These all were connected to wheat. Obviously, the grain markets could bring supplies to the market only if they could get the grains, and that too at sufficiently low prices. It was apparently for this reason that the Sultan decreed such a rigor in realization of land revenue in the Doab, and that the peasants should be forced to sell the grain to the Karwania at the side of field. Sultan established granaries in Delhi, okay, and in Chain in Rajasthan. The land tax from Khalsa in the Doab were realized in kind. The grain went to state granaries. The Multanis, who were cloth merchants, were given 20 lakh of tankas as advance loan to purchase and bring cloth to the market. Means the market system was very good at that time. The Sultan succeeded in maintaining low prices and ample supplies in the market, as reported by all our authorities. But there are very reasons mentioned for why the Sultan introduced the market control and in what region it was enforced. The poet courtier Amir Khusro considered the measure to be of immense generosity taken for the welfare and the comfort for all, the elite as well as the public at large. The Chishti divine Nasiruddin Mahmud Chirag Delhi attributed to the Sultan's effort to do good to all the people. But the historian Ziauddin Barni's view was totally different at that time. He did not credit to sultans' benevolent intentions but gives a hard financial reason. Alauddin Khilji was very anxious to have a large army and to take other precautions such as building of forts, strategic places, fortifications, and wall around the Delhi, etc. These type of activities that ruler was doing at that time. If numerous additional cavalrymen and troops were to be employed at the prevailing salaries, the drain from the state treasury was to exhaust it totally. The salaries could be reduced only if the prices were kept at the sufficient law level. The market control did not survive its enforcer, and we do not hear about it after Alauddin Khilji's time. Only Alauddin Khilji was the ruler that who introduced the market policy in that particular time. A very efficient, alert administration was imperative for the success of price control. That's why one possible reason for its not surviving could be the lack of sufficiently competent administration. That is the main reason. Since the prevalence of low price implies lower revenues from the laws of low price zone, the price control was viable as long as the zone of low price was restricted and most of the expenditure was concentrated there at that time. Revenue administration of the Delhi Sultans. How the Delhi Sultans took revenue from their subjects. We motivated Alauddin Khalji in introducing stern measures of explained by Ziauddin Barni in details. In short, the intermediaries had become intractable, always in readiness for rebellion. The Sultan leveled the following main changes against them. What were the changes? Number one, they did not pay the revenue themselves on that portion of their land which was not exempted from assessment. Rather, they shifted their burden onto the peasantry. That is, they realized additional levy from the peasants beside the fixed demand of the state in order to pay their own dues. They did not pay the grazing tax. The ill gotten excess of wealth had made them so arrogant that they floated the orders of revenue officials by not going to revenue office even when summoned to render accounts also. As a result, the Sultan had to strike at their resources for economic and political reasons. The measures taken by him was as follows. What measures he has taken? The perquisites of intermediaries were disallowed. The grazing and house tax were to be taken from the intermediaries. The intermediaries and the peasants alike were to pay the same standard of the demand, 50% without any distinction, but they, intermediaries of or ordinary peasants, balada. It can be seen then that one objective was to free the peasant from the illegal exactions of the intermediaries. This is exactly what Barni means when he says that Sultan policy was that the burden of the strong should not fall on the weak. We know that this 50% demand was the highest in the agrarian history of India. On the other hand, though, the peasants who protected now from the economic expansion of the intermediaries. The former had to pay a higher rate of taxation than they did earlier. They had to pay excess excess revenue at that time. And they have not paid that much revenue before this time. Yogin Varni was explaining this. It is true that intermediaries were eliminated from direct revenue collection. but they were still expected to maintain law and order in the countryside and help the revenue officials without any remuneration. State direct relation with the peasants resulted in expansion of revenue officials called variously Ummar, Mustasrif, Mushrif, uh, Mashilin, Navi Singhdam. These type of names that were given to the proper revenue officials which were helping in revenue collecting. The process of discovering the decide was simple. The Bahi that contained every payment, Bahi khata, legal or illegal, made to the revenue collectors. These payments were then compared with the receipts. Corrupted occurred in spite of the fact that the Alauddin Khilji had raised the salary of revenue collectors. You can see the map in your book, Alauddin Khilji's dominance, how Alauddin Khilji dominate his area. Alauddin himself preferred collection in grain. He decreed that the whole revenue due from Khalsa in Doab should be released in kind and only half the revenue from Delhi in cash. The reason for his preference for collecting in grain was not only to have a large reserve of grain stored in Delhi, other areas of contingents as scarcity owing to drought or other factors, but also to utilize the storage as a lever for the price fixation measures in the grain market. The two important changes that were introduced by Alauddin Ghayasuddin Tughlaq dynasty we are talking about. Number one, the intermediaries got back their hak e khoti. They were also exempted from the house and cattle tax. The procedure of measurement means masahat. The procedure of measurement was to continue along with the observation or actual yield. How they observed and how they actually been levied at that time. Yes, next is for the Muhammad. As for Muhammad Tughlaq, there is confusion that he enhanced the rate of land tax beyond 50%. It is also thought that after the death of Alauddin Khilji, the rate was reduced for Khalji rulers, which was later raised to previous level by Muhammad Tughlaq. Both these views are incorrect. The rate fixed by Alauddin Khilji was never sought to be tempered. What Muhammad Tughlaq actually did was to impose new cases as well as revive the older ones. Example, charai, ghari on the intermediaries. Apart from this, it seems that measurement alone was retained for assessment purposes. Mughal land revenue system. What was the Mughal land revenue system? How they adopted the methods. What methods they were adopting at the time of revenue collection. Ghalla Bakshi. In some areas, it was called Baholi and Batai. The Aine Akbari notes three types of crop sharing. Number one, division of crop at threshing floor after the grain was obtained. This was done in the presence of both parties, accordance and the agreement. Khet Batai, the share was decided when the crop was still standing in the field and the division of that field was marked. Lang Batai, the crop was cut and stacked in heaps. Without separating grain, a division of crops in this form was made. Kankhut. Kankhut was also a tax at that time. The word kankhut is derived from the words kan plus khut. Kan denotes grain and the khut means appraisal, grain appraisal. Similarly, dana means grain while bandi fixing or determining anybody, like gun code. Next is Zapti. In Mughal India, it was most important method of assessment. Under origin of this practice is traced to Sher Shah. During Akbar reign, the system was revised a number of times before it took the final look, final shape. Uh, Now we are going to talk about land revenue system, the magnitude of land revenue demand. Aurangzeb specially said that the land revenue should be appropriated according to Sharia, not more than half of the total percent. Shesha found that three crop rates on the basis of productivity of soil and demanded was fixed at one third of the average of these three rates for each crop. In the province of Thatta, means in the province of Sindh, the land revenue was taken at the rate of one third. For Ajmer Suba, we find different rate of revenue demand at that time. In Central Asia also, rates varied from one half, one third, one fifth. In Deccan, one half was appropriated from the ordinary lands. Aurangzeb's Farman to Rasik Das Karori stipulates that when the authorities took recourse to crop sharing, usually in the case of distressed peasantry, the proportion levied should be one half, one third, one fifth. These type of ratio will taken out. What was the mode of payment at that time? Mode of payment of that time was just like Zapti. In Mughal period, the peasant under Zapti system had to pay revenue in cash. No provision is on record for allowing a communication of cash into kind in any circumstances. Collection of land revenue. Abul Fazl maintained that collection should begin from Rabi, from Holi, and for Kharif from Dashera. The officials should not delay it for important crop. Relief measures, how the Delhi Sultans and the Mughals, they took relief measures at that time. Takvi. Takvi loans were granted to enable the peasants to buy seeds and cattle. Abul Fazl writes, Amal Guzar should resist the empty-headed peasants be advancing the loans. Todermal had suggested that Takavi should be given to cultivators who were in distressed community and did not have seeds, cattle, all things, etc. Land revenue of the Mughals. How they we find three type of officials at that time, means Karori, Amin, Kanun Go, these type of officials, Shikdar, Chaudhry, Mukaddam, Patwari, these type of officials, they were working at that time. Next is currency system of Delhi Sultan. Gold coins, silver coins, taka, silver tanka, just like 48 jital connected to 1 upon 192 dangas, 480 dirhams. These were connected to these things. The currency they were used for that particular time. A firm ratio of 1 upon 10 means 1:10 between gold and silver appears to have been established. Token currency started by Muhammad bin Tughlaq means gold copper to copper coins. They were connected. Next is currency system of Mughals means the coins they were using at that time. Next is minting system, how they mint their coins at that time, and how the excess minting of coins that will be very harmful for the empire. Working of mints, how they work, how much labor they have worked at that time. Location of mints also. These type of things we have discussed in our unit 9 and 10. Land revenue system, Iqta system, Zapti system, Jagirdari system, a lot of things we have discussed in our this class. And in our next class, we will go to discuss about unit 11 and 12. That will also be very important for all of you, and that will be very beneficial for the economy system. We have studied a lot of things related to this. Thank you and have a nice day.